Good morning, everybody. This is Russell McCluskey with Recalibrate Physical Therapy, and today we are going to go over what mobility is and why it even matters. All right, a few of my followers have reached out to me, and one in particular asked a very good question that I'm sure all of you are having, and that is, what is mobility? So let's dive into that. Mobility is the idea and the concept that your body is able to express and get into whatever range of motion or position is required for your daily living or your specific sport. Okay, so that means that in order to run, in order to hike, in order to pull a bow back, anything you're doing that requires different joints, shoulder, elbow, and wrist in relation to bow hunting or something like that, that requires a certain amount of mobility or range of motion in a lot of joints in order to complete that activity. Now, if your body can't get into, or key joints can't get into the necessary position in order to accomplish your goal, the body is a very important and intelligent machine. It'll find a way around it. And sometimes those compensations, based on some limitations you may have, it might be the only way around it and it is what it is. But more often than not, the compensations that develop due to a lack of mobility in a key area is what then down the road becomes the actual pain generator and is actually now where your pain is felt but still not the cause. As an example, for running, as we've been talking about the last few days, hip extension is one of the key mobility requirements for running. Okay, so let's dive into why that matters, and if you don't have it, how that can trickle up and create an issue for you. So, with hip extension, if you don't have the ability to extend your hip back behind your midline a certain amount, then your body is going to find a way to get relative hip extension. So in runners, what we typically see, if you don't have the necessary hip extension, that your body will automatically find a way to get that extension by just extending your back. And so you see people running where their leg never actually goes behind them, and they run with this kind of bucket of doom here in the low back, and you keep running and running and running and running, and you ultimately get low back pain. So this also takes us to the concept of regional interdependence, which is you can have pain anywhere in your body, but the actual cause to that, or a primary contributor to why it even hurts, say in this example in your low back, might not be due to anything in the low back. In our example here, the primary contributor could be a massive restriction in hip extension mobility, and then it requires overuse of the low back, and that's where the pain shows up. So mobility does matter. And if you're not addressing mobility, you're going to get the job done, but it may become and may be a primary contributor to some of the aches and pains that you have in whatever activity you're doing. And outside of mobility, you can have all the mobility in the world too, but if you can't stabilize it or control in a certain amount of range, that's an issue as well, but that's the topic of a different video. So mobility is the ability for your body to express the ranges of motion and the positions that you are asking of it to do. And if your key joints don't have that necessary range, there's going to be a compensation somewhere, and that's why it matters to have a regular and continuous mobility practice. All right, thanks.